Hi guys, welcome to day 9. And today we're going to be talking about someone pretty interesting. Helen Keller was an American author. She was also an activist and she was also a lecturer. She's a woman that really inspired millions of people in advocating for disability rights, and she also had a bachelor's of arts. But what if I tell you that this woman was deaf and blind? Yes, she could not hear and she could not, see. So her two major senses were off, right? Yet she was able to achieve this thing. She was able to write a book, that was very impactful. She was able to lead millions of people in an advocacy, right? She was able to get a bachelor's of arts, right? So how did all of this happen, right? How did she manage to do this? So this story is going to challenge you that you don't really have an excuse. If you have eyes that you can see and you have ears that you can hear, how much more can you do, right? And so you're going to learn a lot from this video, so just stay tuned, right? The first thing we need to understand is that our inabilities also shape purpose, right? Our weaknesses, remember we talked about yesterday, our weaknesses are not just useless, they are intentional for a reason. So this will mean that those weaknesses or inabilities will shape how you will live out purpose, not if you can. Not if you can. So the purpose can still be the same, but because of your inabilities or certain things that you can't exactly fix, right? You can't obviously exactly fix. Because of those things, it does not mean that you can't still fulfill purpose. It just means that the how will be different, and that's something that Helen understood. So okay, she can't see, she can't hear, but she has to do this thing. This thing has to be done. So she has to find a way around it. She has to find a way around it. It's a popular saying of once there's a will, there's a way, right? It just means that once you understand this thing has to be done, right? You have to do this thing. There will always be a way to it. There are 1,000 ways to do a certain thing, right? So every limitation, there's always an alternative, right? There's, even if you've not seen it before, then create it. There's always an alternative. Prior to our times, you probably had not heard of anyone who was able to write a book while being deaf and blind. But she didn't really think of that. She just knew that she needs to do this to get these things done, right, one way or another. And that's the way you should think, right? So you shouldn't just be all absorbed or consumed in your inabilities or in your weaknesses. You think, okay, I can't do this way because of this issue I have. There's a way. There should be a way. There is always a way around it. So your job is not to give up and just soak in your inabilities, right? But to find that way, just like Helen did. One thing you can learn from Helen also is that her experiences made her empathetic to other people, right? So remember in day 7 we talked about difficult experiences and how they help us to empathize with other people's situation. So because of that, or because of her situation, right, she was able to advocate that other people with the same disabilities should not have certain limitations, right, or should not be ignored in certain ways, right? So she was able to now build an advocacy around that. She was able to promote education around that and things like that. So you see how Helen's case is just very, very unique and very inspiring, right? So for anything you cannot do, don't just soak yourself in it. Yes, there are billions of ways around it, and it's just creative how that people can always find a way as long as there's a will. As long as there's a will. So if you have to do something and currently you do not have the resources, whatever thing that stands as a limitation, right, there's always a way around it. So you see that Helen did also spend a lot of time trying to fix these limitations, even though there are things that obviously needed to be fixed, not to do, but she didn't spend her whole life doing that, right? She understood that, okay, since this thing can't work this way, she aligned with it, and then she found a way around it, and she was still able to do what she was able to do. So if there's anything you should get from today's lesson, is that do not be soaked up in your inabilities. Look for that way around it, because there are certain things you can't fix, even though they look like things that can be legitimately fixed, but for some reason they are not getting solved. Then that's a pointer that you should find a way around it, and you'll be surprised just what you can do, right? Just the kind of ideas you can come up around this. This is how people actually thrive. Alright, so ensure to do the action step at the end of this video, and see you at day 10.